Have you ever looked back at your life and asked yourself a very uncomfortable question? Why hasn't anything changed yet? You read books. You watch motivational videos. You tell yourself, I will do better. But then, next week passes exactly like the previous week. Next month passes exactly like the previous month. And many years later, your life is still almost in the same place. I have observed this for many years. It's not that people lack intelligence. It's not that they lack opportunities. And it's not that they lack dreams. The real problem is much simpler. They are not truly serious. They care, but they have not committed. They want change, but they are not ready to pay the price. They say they will start, but they have never truly decided. And I have learned a very powerful truth in my life. Nothing changes until you become serious. Not when you hope, not when you feel motivated, not when you say you will try, but when you draw a line in your mind and say, from today, I will not live the same way anymore. That moment, everything begins to change. Not because the world changed, but because you changed. In this video, I want to share with you 10 powerful lessons about seriousness, the thing that creates discipline, standards, and the strength to change your life. And stay until the end of the video, because lesson number 8 is where many people fail in silence, and when you understand it, you will see your life in a completely different way. So let's start with the first lesson. Lesson 1, the difference between interest and commitment. I want to start with a simple truth that very few people truly understand. There is a very big difference between being interested in something and being committed to it. At first glance, these two things may seem the same. Both sound very positive. People say, I care about my health. I care about personal development. I want to succeed. I want to change my life. But after many years of observing people, I realize something interesting. Most people are only interested. Very few people are truly committed. And the difference between those two things is where life begins to split into two completely different directions. Imagine someone who says they want to be healthier. They read about nutrition. They watch workout videos. They sometimes go to the gym. They are interested in their health. But when the weather is cold, they stay home. When work gets busy, they skip their workout. When friends invite them out for late-night food, they say, okay, just this one exception today, that is interest. Interest only exists when it is convenient. But look at someone who is committed to their health. They train even when they have no motivation. They go to bed on time even when everyone around them stays up late. They eat with discipline even when no one is watching. Why? Because they are no longer just interested. They are committed. And when you are committed to something, you no longer ask, do I feel like doing this today? You only ask a simpler question, is this necessary? If the answer is yes, you do it. I have met many people in my life. Some say they want to build a business. Some say they want financial freedom. Some say they want to become a better version of themselves. But when you look at their actions every day, you will see a completely different story. They procrastinate. They get distracted. They let small things take up all their time. And then they say, I'm trying. But you see, trying is not commitment. Trying still leaves a door open for quitting. Commitment is different. Commitment is like burning the bridge behind you. There is no way back, no backup option, no sentence like, I'll try and see. When you commit, the way you speak changes. You don't say, I hope things will get better. You say, I will make things better. There is something interesting that I realized. When a person is truly committed to something, you can feel it. You can see it in their eyes. You can hear it in the way they speak. You can see it in the way they use their time. They no longer talk too much about plans. They are executing the plan. They are no longer waiting for the perfect moment. They are creating progress every day. And here is something many people do not want to hear. Life does not change when you are interested. Life only begins to change when you commit. You can be interested in learning for many years, but if you do not commit to learning every day, your knowledge will not change. You can be interested in making money, but if you do not commit to building skills and financial discipline, your bank account will not change. You can be interested in becoming a better person, but if you do not commit to changing your habits every day, you will not change. That is why I always say, interest is an emotion. Commitment is a decision. Emotions come and go, but a decision can change your life. So I want to ask you a very simple question. Pause for a moment and ask yourself this. Is there something in your life that you are only interested in but have not truly committed to? Maybe it is your health. Maybe it is your finances. Maybe it is your career. Or maybe it is becoming the person you know you could become. Because the moment you move from interest to commitment, that is the moment your life begins to change. And the interesting thing is, when you truly commit to something, You begin to see the world differently. You begin to notice the habits that are pulling you down. You begin to clearly see the cost of living a casual life. And that is exactly what we will talk about in the next lesson. Lesson 2, why most people stay interested but never truly commit. After many years of observing people, I realized something very interesting. Most people do not lack dreams. They want a better life. They want to make more money. They want to be healthier. They want personal growth. But if you look closely at how they live every day, you will see a different truth. They are only interested but not truly committed. And the big question is, why? Why do so many people say they want to change their life, but many years later, everything is still almost the same? The answer is usually not ability. Most of those people are smart enough. It is also not opportunity. This world is full of opportunities for those who are willing to act. The real reason is usually something deeper. They are not ready to pay the price for change. You see, everything has a price. Success has a price. Health has a price. Discipline has a price. Personal growth also has a price. And that price is usually not money. The price is usually inconvenience. If you want to be healthier, you must train even when you are tired. If you want to succeed in your career, you must study and work when others are resting. If you want to build a business, you must face days full of pressure, doubt, and failure. And many people, when they face that price, begin to hesitate. They still want the result, but they do not want to pay the price. I have met many people who told me, I really want to change my life. But when you look at how they use their time every day, you see a very different picture. They say they want personal growth, but they spend hours scrolling on social media. They say they want success, but they do not spend time learning new skills. They say they want financial freedom, but they do not control how they spend their money. You see, it is not that they do not know what to do. Most people know exactly what they should do. They know they should read more books. They know they should exercise. They know they should manage their time better. But knowing and doing are two completely different worlds. There is another thing that keeps many people forever at the level of interest. It is comfort. Comfort is a very subtle trap. It does not make you fail immediately. It only makes you delay. It makes you say, let me rest today. Then the next day you say, I can start next week. The next week becomes next month. And before you realize it, many years have passed. Another thing I noticed is that many people are waiting for motivation. They think that one day they will wake up with powerful energy. One day they will feel ready. One day they will have enough inspiration to begin. But the truth is, motivation is not something you wait for. Motivation often appears after you take action. You start exercising and then you feel motivated. You start working and then you feel engaged. You start building something and then you feel meaning. But if you keep waiting for inspiration before taking action, you will wait a very long time, maybe a lifetime. That is why many people live in a very strange state. They are not completely failing, but they are not truly moving forward either. They stay in the middle, not advancing but not falling back, just drifting. And life drifting like that can feel very exhausting. You always feel that you could do more. You always feel that you have potential. But every day that passes, the distance between who you are and who you could become grows larger. That distance is where regret begins to form. So I want to ask you a very honest question. Are you living in that state? Are you saying you will change but still delaying? Are you interested in your future but not truly committed? If the answer is yes, remember something very important. There is nothing wrong with starting late, but there is something very dangerous, never starting seriously. Because once you truly become serious, once you truly commit, everything begins to change. Not because the world changes, but because your standards begin to change. You begin to expect more from yourself. You no longer accept old habits. You are no longer satisfied with average. And that is exactly what we will explore next. Lesson 3, the hidden cost of staying casual. I want to tell you something that very few people truly think about. There is a very big price when you live casually with your life. But the dangerous thing is that the price does not appear immediately. If you eat without discipline for one day, you do not see the consequence right away. If you procrastinate for 1 week, the world does not collapse. If you waste time for a few months, your life still seems normal. And because the consequences do not come immediately, many people begin to believe everything is fine. But life does not work that way. Life works through accumulation. Small choices repeated every day eventually become your life. I have met very intelligent people. They have great ideas. They have huge potential. They have talents that many others do not have. But after 10 years, they are still exactly where they started. Not because they had a big failure, but because they were not serious long enough. They started many things but did not finish. They made plans but did not execute. They talked about goals but did not pursue those goals every day. And that creates a very strange feeling in life. You are always busy but not progressing. You are always working but not building anything meaningful. You always say you are trying, but deep inside you know you could do more. The distance between who you are and who you could become begins to grow, and that distance hurts. I have seen many people live in that distance for many years. They always say, I know I have potential, but potential does not change your life. Action changes your life. You can have all the talent in the world, but if you live casually with your goals, that talent will never be fully used. And over time, that begins to turn into something very dangerous. Regret. Regret rarely comes in one day. It comes very slowly. It comes when you see others achieve the things you once said you would do. It comes when you realize that years have passed and you are still standing in the same place. It comes when you begin to ask yourself, if I had been more serious, how different would my life be? You see, life does not only reward talented people. Life rewards people who stay consistent long enough, people who show up every day, people who work even when no one is clapping, people who keep moving forward even when the progress is small. That is how big things are built, not through explosive moments, but through thousands of small, disciplined days. But when you live casually with your goals, something very dangerous happens. You begin to accept average. At first, you only say, let me rest today. Then you begin to say, this week is a little busy. Then you say, maybe I don't need to be that serious. And little by little, your standards begin to drop. You may not notice it immediately, but your life will reflect those standards exactly. There is a sentence I always remember. What you tolerate, you reinforce. If you tolerate procrastination, you reinforce the habit of procrastination. If you tolerate laziness, you reinforce laziness. If you tolerate a mediocre life, you are building a mediocre life. Your life will never rise above the standard you accept. So I want to ask you a very direct question. Are you living below the standard that you know you could reach? Is there something in your life that you clearly know you should be more serious about, but you are still delaying? Maybe it is your health. Maybe it is your career. Maybe it is your skills. Or maybe it is the dreams you have talked about for many years. Because the truth is this, not being serious about your life is also a decision, but it is a very expensive decision. You do not pay the price today, you pay it many years later. And by then, that price usually has a very familiar name, regret. But the good news is this, the moment you decide to become serious, everything begins to change. Not tomorrow, not next year. Right in the way you think, right in the way you use your time, right in the way you look at the future. And that is exactly what we will explore in the next lesson. Lesson 4, the moment everything begins to change. In every person's life, there is a very special moment. Not when you read one more book, not when you listen to one more inspiring talk, and not when you make one more new plan. The moment that truly changes your life is usually much quieter. It is the moment when you decide that you have had enough. Enough with procrastination, enough with starting and then giving up halfway, enough with living below your true potential. I have seen that moment happen in the lives of many people. A person can live in a state of stagnation for many years. Their finances do not improve. Their health declines. Their work brings no growth. They know they need to change, but they still have not truly decided. Until one day something happens inside them. It is not a miracle. It is not a major event. It is just a very clear thought that appears. That is enough. That moment is like drawing a line in the sand. On one side is your old self. On the other side is the person you decide to become. And from that moment on, everything begins to change. Not your circumstances, not your job, not your bank account. Those things may still look exactly the same as yesterday, but you are different. When a person is truly serious, you can see it. They do not need to say much. You see it in their eyes. You see it in the way they speak. You see it in the way they use their time. They no longer talk too much about plans. They begin to act. They no longer ask, do I feel like doing this today? They only ask, is this necessary? If the answer is yes, they do it. Something interesting happens when you become truly serious. Clarity begins to appear. Decisions that used to be very difficult become simpler. Not easier, but simpler. You no longer spend hours arguing with yourself about whether you should exercise or not. You no longer spend much time thinking about whether you should learn another new skill or not. You've already decided what kind of person you want to become, and from that point on, your actions begin to align with that decision. Many people think they need motivation to change their life, but what they really need is a decision. Motivation is an emotion. It comes and goes. Some days you feel full of energy. Some days you do not want to do anything at all. If your life depends on motivation, you will live very inconsistently. But a decision is different. A decision creates direction. Once you have decided that you will become a more disciplined person, a harder working person, and a more serious person about your life, you no longer wait for feelings. You act because that is the person you have chosen to become. I remember very clearly a period in my life when I realized that I needed to change. No one forced me. No one stood next to me and said that I had to do it. But I began to look at my life honestly. I looked at how I was using my time. I looked at my habits, and I asked myself a very simple question. If I continue living like this for the next 5 years, what will my life look like? The answer made me uncomfortable, and that discomfort was exactly what made me decide to change. You see, real change often begins with honesty. Honesty about where you are standing. Honesty about the habits that are pulling you down. Honesty about the opportunities you are missing. Not to blame yourself, but to say one very simple sentence. From today, I will do better. The moment you say that sentence and truly mean it, your life begins to shift direction. You begin to pay more attention to your time. You begin to protect your energy. You begin to set new standards for yourself. And that is exactly where real change begins. Not in circumstances, not in luck, but in the standard you set for yourself. And that is the next lesson I want to share with you. Because when a person becomes truly serious about their life, something very important begins to happen. They raise their standards. And when your standards change, your life also begins to change with them. Lesson 5. Raise your standards and your life will follow. There is something I realized after many years of observing truly successful people. They do not just work harder. They are not just smarter. The biggest difference is that their standards are higher. They expect more from themselves. They do not accept the things that most people consider normal. And when you raise your standards, your life begins to change in a very natural way. Many people say that they want a better life. They want better health. They want higher income. They want more opportunities. But when you look at how they live every day, you will see something very clear. Their standards do not reflect the things they say. They say they want to be healthy, but they skip exercise. They say they want success, but they do not spend time developing skills. They say they want to change their life, but they keep their old habits, and that is why their life does not change. There is a very simple rule in life. Your life will never rise above the standard you accept. If you accept procrastination, you will live with procrastination. If you accept laziness, you will live with average results. If you accept doing everything at a good enough level, your life will reflect that exact good enough level. But when you raise your standards, everything begins to change. You begin to look at your old habits and realize that they no longer fit. Staying up late for no reason, wasting time, putting off important things. Those things may have once seemed normal. But when your standards change, they begin to feel unacceptable. Not because someone tells you to change, but because you expect more from yourself. I have seen this happen many times. A person can live without discipline for many years. They skip exercise. They spend money without control. They let time pass without building anything meaningful. But then one day, they decide to raise their standards. They say, this is no longer acceptable. And from that moment on, their actions begin to change. When your standards are higher, you begin to do the things you used to ignore. You wake up earlier. You manage your time better. You begin investing in learning. You begin building good habits. Not because you always feel motivated, but because that is your new standard. Something interesting happens when you raise your standards. You begin to change the way you see yourself. You no longer say, I'm trying to become more disciplined. You begin to say, I am a disciplined person. You no longer say, I'm trying to work harder. You begin to say, I am the kind of person who always gets my work done. It is no longer just action, it is identity. And when your actions become part of your identity, everything becomes more sustainable. You no longer work hard only when you feel motivated. You do it because that is who you are. You no longer exercise only when you feel inspired. You do it because that is your standard. That is why I always say that real change begins from within, not from goals, not from plans, but from the standard you set for yourself. Because once your standards change, your actions will begin to change. And when your actions change for long enough, your life will change too. But there is one very important thing that many people do not realize. Raising your standards is the first step, but if you do not build a structure to protect those standards, you can easily fall back into old habits. That is why in the next lesson, I want to talk about a very important trait of people who are truly serious about their lives. They do not just raise their standards. They build systems and structure to protect those standards every day. Lesson 6. Seriousness creates a new identity. Something very interesting happens when a person becomes truly serious about their life. At first, they only change their actions. They begin waking up earlier. They begin working with more discipline. They begin managing their time better. But if they maintain those actions long enough, something deeper begins to happen. Their identity begins to change. You see, most people think they need to change their life by changing their circumstances. They think, if I had a better job, if I had more money, if I had more opportunities, then their life would change. But over the years, I realized that real change often begins in the opposite direction. It begins when you change the way you see yourself. When a person lives casually with their goals, they usually have a story in their head. They tell themselves, I'm not a disciplined person. I'm not good at managing my time. I'm not the kind of person who can achieve major success. And when you repeat that story long enough, you begin to believe it is true. But the interesting thing is, most of those stories are not true. They are just habits you have repeated for too long. When you begin to get serious about your life, something very important starts to happen. You begin to rewrite that story. You no longer say, I'm trying to become more disciplined. You begin to say, I am a disciplined person. You no longer say, I'm trying to manage my time better. You begin to say, I am someone who knows how to use my time well. This change may seem small, but it is actually very powerful, because people often act in ways that match how they see themselves. If you believe you are a lazy person, you will find ways to justify procrastination. If you believe you are a person who lacks discipline, you will easily give up when things become difficult. But if you begin to believe that you are a disciplined person, you will begin to act in ways that match that identity. Imagine two people standing in front of the same challenge. Both have to wake up early to work. The first person says, I'm trying to become more disciplined. The second person says, I am a disciplined person. The first person will easily give up when they feel tired. The second person will say to themselves, this is what a disciplined person does, and they get up. You see, when identity changes, action becomes more natural. You no longer have to fight with yourself so much. You no longer have to convince yourself every day. You simply live by the standard of the person you have decided to become. That is why successful people often seem very consistent. Not because their lives are always easy, but because they have built a very clear identity. They know who they are. They know what they stand for, and they do not want to break that standard. I have seen this happen with many people. At first, they only try to change a few small habits. They begin reading every day. They begin exercising regularly. They begin managing their time better. And after a while, they begin to see themselves differently. They are no longer a person who is trying. They become a person who actually does those things. And when that happens, their life begins to change faster, because now they are no longer fighting themselves. They are acting from their new identity, the identity of a serious person, the identity of a disciplined person, the identity of a person who no longer lives below their potential. But there is one very important thing. Even if you have changed your identity, you still need something to protect it, because the world around you is full of things that can pull you back into old habits. That is why people who are truly serious about their lives do not just change themselves. They change the environment around them. And that is exactly what we will explore in the next lesson. Why your environment and the structure of your life can determine whether you will succeed or fall back into old habits. Lesson 7. Structure protects your discipline. When a person decides to get serious about their life, they often begin with a lot of energy. They feel determined. They feel ready to change. They feel like they can do anything. But there's one very important thing that many people do not realize. Emotions can start change, but they cannot sustain change. Emotions come and go. There are days when you feel full of motivation. You wake up early. You work hard. You stay focused on your goals. But then there will be other days. Days when you are tired. Days when you lose focus. Days when you do not feel like doing anything at all. If your life depends entirely on emotions, you will live very inconsistently. And that is why so many people start strong, but after a while fall back into their old habits. People who are truly serious about their lives understand something very important. They do not rely only on determination. They build structure. Structure is the systems that help you do the right thing even when you do not feel like doing it. Structure is the habits repeated every day. Structure is the way you organize your time. Structure is the environment you create around yourself. Think about this. If every day you have to decide all over again whether you should exercise or not, you will waste a lot of energy just thinking. But if you have already decided that every morning at 6 o'clock you will work out, that decision has already been made in advance. Now, you just need to follow through. That is the power of structure. It removes hesitation. One of the first things serious people do is design their day. They do not let their day drift by randomly. They know what time they will begin their day. They know which time blocks are for important work. They know when they will rest. They know when they will learn. Not everything is perfect, but there is a clear framework. When you have structure, your life begins to change in a very interesting way. You no longer react to everything happening around you. You begin to act proactively. You no longer let other people decide how you use your time. You begin to protect that time. You begin to say no to things that are not important. Another very important part of structure is environment. Your environment affects your behavior more than you think. If your desk is full of distractions, it will be hard to focus. If your phone is always in your hand, it will be easy to get pulled into social media. If you spend time with people who do not have clear goals, it is very hard to maintain discipline. But when you change your environment, your behavior begins to change with it. You remove distractions. You create space for focus. You place yourself in environments that encourage growth. Serious people also understand something else. They do not try to do everything alone. They seek accountability. Maybe it is a friend. Maybe it is a mentor. Maybe it is a community of people who are also trying to grow. When someone is tracking your progress, you are more likely to keep your promises to yourself. Not because you are afraid of being judged, but because you do not want to break your commitment. Structure is not there to make your life rigid. Structure is there to make important decisions easier. Once you have decided what matters to you, and you build systems to support it, you do not need to argue with yourself every day. You just keep walking on the path you have chosen. That is how people who are truly serious maintain progress. Not through explosive moments, but through simple systems repeated every day. Small habits, consistent decisions, actions taken even when no one is watching. But there is something else we need to talk about. Because if you are not serious about your life, the price you pay is often much greater than you think. That price is not only money, not only opportunity. Sometimes that price is the years of your life. And that is exactly what we will explore in the next lesson. Lesson 8, the real price of staying casual. There is a price for every choice in life. There is a price for discipline. There is a price for growth. There is a price for building a better life. But there is also another price, one that many people do not realize until it is too late. It is the price of living casually with your life. And the dangerous thing is that this price does not appear immediately. If you skip your workout today, you still feel fine. If you put off important work this week, the world does not collapse. If you waste time for a few months, your life still seems normal. But life works by a very powerful principle. Everything accumulates. Small choices repeated every day eventually become your life. I have met very talented people. They have good ideas. They have good skills. They have great potential. But years go by and they are still talking about the things they are going to do. They are going to start a business. They are going to write that book. They are going to change their life. But year after year, those promises remain only promises. Not because they lack ability, but because they were never truly serious. And over time, this starts to create a very uncomfortable feeling. You always feel like you could do more. You always feel like you are wasting your potential. You always feel like there's a gap between who you are and who you know you could become. That gap is exactly where regret begins to grow. Regret does not come immediately. It comes slowly. It appears when you see other people achieve the things you once said you would do. It appears when you realize that the years have passed faster than you thought. And it appears when you begin to ask yourself a very uncomfortable question. If I had been more serious, how different would my life be? You see, time is one of the most valuable assets we have. But many people live as if they have unlimited time. They say, I'll start later. I'll change when things are more stable. I'll do it next year. But time does not wait. Every day that passes, you are spending a part of your life. There is something I always tell people. Time is not something you manage. Time is something you spend. You are either spending it to build something meaningful, or you are spending it delaying the important things. Whichever way you choose, time keeps moving. Something else also happens when you live casually. You begin to get used to starting over. You start a new habit. Then you quit. You set a goal. Then you forget it. You make a plan. Then you procrastinate. After a while, starting over becomes normal. But each time that happens, your confidence begins to drop a little. You begin to doubt yourself. You begin to wonder whether you can really change at all. That is the real price of not being serious. Not just missed opportunities, but the erosion of your belief in yourself. And when a person loses belief in themselves, everything in life begins to get harder. But there is good news. I want you to remember. Life does not only accumulate delay, it also accumulates discipline. The moment you decide to become serious, your small choices begin to accumulate in the opposite direction. One morning you wake up earlier. One day you focus better. One week you work with more discipline. One month you build new habits. And step by step, your life begins to change. You do not have to change everything in one day. You just need to become a little more serious each day. Because seriousness, like procrastination, also has compounding power. Small actions repeated long enough can change the entire direction of your life. And that is exactly what we will talk about in the next lesson. Because when a person is truly serious about their life, something very interesting begins to happen. Their small efforts begin to create big results over time. That is the power of the compounding effect of seriousness. Lesson 9, the compounding power of seriousness. There is a very powerful principle in life that many people often overlook. It is the principle of accumulation. Big things in life rarely happen in one explosive moment. They are usually built from very small actions repeated every day. A book is not written in one day. A business is not built in 1 week. A strong person is not formed from just one decision. All of those things are created by thousands of days of small action. When a person is truly serious about their life, they begin to understand the power of small actions. They do not wait for giant leaps. They focus on small progress every day. They read a few pages of a book. They spend 1 more hour learning a new skill. They exercise even if only for a short time. Those actions may seem very small, but when you repeat them for many months and many years, they begin to create very large results. I once said that discipline is like compound interest. When you save money and let it accumulate over time, that money begins to grow faster. At first, the change is very small, but after a while, the growth becomes very significant. Discipline works in a similar way. Small habits accumulated over time create results that many people think only talent can achieve. But the interesting thing is that this principle works in both directions. If you build good habits, your life begins to improve little by little. But if you maintain bad habits, the consequences also begin to accumulate. 1 wasted hour a day may not seem significant, but after a year, that is hundreds of hours gone. 1 small daily expense may not seem important, but after many years, it can become a very large amount of money. That is why people who are serious about their lives pay close attention to small choices. They know that life is not built from rare major decisions. It is built from small decisions repeated every day. You choose to wake up early or sleep more. You choose to learn or procrastinate. You choose to build or waste time. Those choices seem small, but over time, they determine the direction of your life. I have met people who started from zero, no money, no connections, no special advantages, but they had one very powerful thing. They were serious about improving themselves every day. They read books. They learned. They worked hard. They improved little by little. After 1 year, the change was not huge. But after 5 years, their life looked completely different. That is the power of accumulation. It is not magic. It is not luck. It is the result of small choices repeated long enough. And when you are truly serious about your life, you begin to trust that process. You no longer need immediate results. You understand that if you keep doing the right thing every day, the result will eventually come. There's something I always tell people. Success rarely comes from explosive moments. It usually comes from very ordinary days. Days when you show up and do the work. Days when no one is clapping. Days when progress is only 1 small step. But those very days, when repeated long enough, create extraordinary results. So I want to ask you a question. What are you accumulating every day? Are you accumulating discipline or accumulating procrastination? Are you accumulating knowledge or accumulating distraction? Are you accumulating progress or accumulating regret? Because every day, you are building your future, whether you realize it or not. And the beautiful thing is that you do not need to wait for a perfect moment to begin. You do not need to wait for the new year. You do not need to wait for a big opportunity. You just need to start where you are with what you have. One small step today, one disciplined action today, one serious decision today. And over time, those small steps will lead you to places you once thought were impossible. But there is one final thing I want you to remember. All of this change, all of this progress begins with one very simple decision. A decision that many people delay for many years. It is the decision to get serious about your life. And that is exactly what we will talk about in the final lesson. Lesson 10, the decision that changes everything. After everything we have talked about in this video, there is one very simple truth I want you to remember. Your life will not change until you truly decide to change it. Not when you read one more book. Not when you listen to one more inspiring talk. Not when you make one more new plan. All of those things can be helpful, but they are not what changes your life. What changes your life is a real decision. Many people live for years in a very familiar state. They say they will start. They say they will change. They say they will do something greater with their life. But deep inside, they still have not truly decided. They still leave themselves an escape route. They still say, I will try. I will see how things go. If it doesn't work, I will do something else. And when you leave yourself an escape route, part of your mind will always be facing that direction. When things get difficult, when you are tired, when results do not come as quickly as you hoped, your mind will say, maybe I should stop. That is what happens when you have not truly decided. You are still trying. You are still seeing how things go. But when a person truly decides, something very interesting happens. They no longer say, I will try. They say, I will do it. No more negotiation. No more delay. No more waiting for the perfect moment. Only action. I have seen this happen many times. A person can live for years in procrastination. They start and then quit halfway. They make plans and then forget them. They talk about their goals but do not pursue them every day. But then one day, something changes. Not their circumstances, not their opportunities. They change. They say to themselves, that is enough. That moment can be very quiet. There are no fireworks. There is no audience. But for that person, it is a very powerful moment. It is the day they decide that they will no longer continue living below their potential. It is the day they decide that they will get serious about their life. From that moment on, everything begins to change. Not because the world becomes easier. Not because the challenges disappear, but because the way they respond to those challenges changes. They no longer look for reasons to stop. They look for ways to continue. They no longer ask, is this easy? They ask, is this necessary? And when you live that way, something very powerful begins to happen. You begin to build belief in yourself. Every day you keep your promises to yourself. Every day you complete the things you decided to do. Little by little, your confidence begins to grow. Not because you say positive words, but because you are proving to yourself that you can do it. That is how great lives are built. Not by one perfect moment, but by thousands of days when you keep your promises to yourself, day after day, month after month, year after year. So I want to ask you a very important question. Are you ready to make that decision? Not tomorrow, not next week. Today, decide that you will become more serious about your life. Decide that you will raise your standards. Decide that you will do the necessary things even when they are difficult. Because the truth is very simple. Nothing changes until you become serious. But the moment you truly become serious, everything begins to move. Your habits change. The way you use your time changes. The way you look at the future changes. And step by step, your life begins to move in a completely new direction. You and I both have the same gift. That is today. A new day to make better decisions. A new day to build better habits. A new day to become the person you know you can become. If this video has given you a new thought, press like and subscribe so you do not miss the next lessons. And I want to ask you a question in the comments. What in your life are you deciding to take seriously starting today? Write it down. Because sometimes, just one clear decision can change the entire direction of your life. And remember this, discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment. Discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment. See you in the next video.